Elevated Grapes Podcast.
Elevated Grapes Podcast.
With your host, Sethi. And stylist, Rashi Bindra.
It's time to get started.
Let's talk fashion, shall we? All right, so for whoever's listening, whoever's not listening, whoever is on the air with us, welcome to Elevated Grapes. I am your host, Sethi.
And I'm Stylist Rashi Bindra.
Who's paying no attention to the show right now. She's on her own, in her own little world on her phone.
No, I'm not. I'm just making sure that my followers know that we're live. Like, I do have followers too, you know. You're not the only one here.
Out of the two of us, I'm pretty sure she's the more popular one, but that's okay.
That's also.
I'll give credit where it's due. So we're very lucky, actually, to have an amazing guest with us today. He's sitting here patiently waiting for us to introduce him as we babble on about ourselves like usual.
So wait, I'm doing the...
I'm going to let you do the honors today. Usually, I jump in, but since you know him a lot better than I do, I want to make sure that he gets the proper credit he deserves because he's awesome.
So this is the designer that I sat and actually danced on my seat, and I was singing along to all the Spice Girls songs because of his fashion show collection. So I would like to introduce Anari, or Adrian Arnier, properly. Because I always keep, for some reason, calling you Adam, and then I keep calling you Adrian.
No worries. Hello, everyone.
Like Adam Adrian.
Adrian.
There you go. I love it.
Just Adrian.
Adrian's good. So we have him as our designer guest today, and I'm super excited. And I have my sequins hat on just for his pleasure.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Yay.
And for my annoyance.
Yeah, well, whatever.
So the really cool thing about Adrian is he has a really interesting perspective on fashion. And I'm basing it on the last show that I saw.
Right.
Adrian was featured in Toronto Fashion Week, and his whole show had this Spice Girls theme to it, but he catered to both men and women with that theme in mind, which was really interesting. So we're going to jump right in. I want to hear your thoughts on this, how it all came together, what your inspiration was, obviously Spice Girls, but what your inspiration was to go that route with your show and your designs.
Well, I guess I'd have to take you back about 20 years from now. I was a 3-year-old little boy who was a huge fan of the Spice Girls, would watch all of their concerts, music videos. I knew all the dance moves and would sing along. And I was just starstruck by these 5 women who were so completely different from one another, and they were able to come together and create their own music and, just show friendship and their own individual interests and styles. So you had the sporty one, you
Posh.
had the animal prints, the all black posh, super sleek, the fun little baby one, who's my personal favorite. That's the unicorn sweater that I'm wearing right now. Thought I'd keep in theme. And then the super sassy patriotic. So I feel like I wanted everyone, or at least when the Spice Girls were super relevant in the 90s, everyone could at least relate to one of the 5 girls.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. They're still relevant, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, 100%. I'm not gonna argue.
I was hosting at Union Station, which is a hub downtown in Toronto, and the night they did the Spice Girls movie was their busiest night, and that was just this summer.
Well,
Spice Girls are still relevant. Anyways, continue on. Continue on the story.
I'm not going to argue. They are totally relevant. It was just when they were at their prime.
Yes,
their prime. But yeah, everyone can relate to one of the 5 girls, and I really wanted to encompass that in my collection. And even though I'm not really an athletic wear designer, I wanted to take some of the themes or personas and really bring my own twist and style to both the women's clothes and the men's clothes that I decided I would give a shot. I usually don't design for men, but I really, again, wanted to emphasize that everyone was included. The Spice Girls made me feel like I was included, and that everyone could be one of them. They were so reachable with what they were wearing and their message that they were talking about. So again, I just wanted to convey that in my collection and really stay true to who they were as artists.
And I think we saw that. I've seen so many fashion shows throughout my years, right? But this was one of the first ones that it's so vivid that from every single angle there was not one person who was not either singing along, dancing along. Every phone was going like this, and everybody was like excited, and they were all saying, "Oh, that's Scary Spice! Oh, that's Baby!" And like every single person in the audience, they all felt they were back to Spice Girls meets 2019 type of thing. And I think that's one of the best parts about about Toronto Fashion Week was seeing that, right?
Thank you. And honestly, that's such a good feeling being able to hear that feedback, because obviously I wasn't there to watch my own show, but putting it together, I was singing and dancing while I was sewing these outfits, and there'd be moments where I was exhausted at like 3 a.m. and I would have like the Spice Girl music running through the background, and I'd have to take like a 2-minute break so I could quickly just dance to one of the songs.
Well, you were in the mood. You got into the groove.
Yeah, and then you keep going at it.
And then pieces from your segments have already been selling out. Like that dress that I asked you about was from your Spice Girls thing.
So now anything you mentioned, we got to get a picture of and post on our podcast while people are watching, so they know what's going on. So we'll have to make sure Adrian gets his photos of all these things.
Don't worry, I'll be sharing the whole collection with you guys.
There you go.
Amazing. So I was asking him about some stuff, and he's like, "Oh, this is sold. This is for the shoot." And I was like, I love hearing that. Like, I actually love hearing that. Just seeing that what you did, and the way everybody's still buzzing about it, given the fact that we were at the Marty's in May, and seeing you getting, an award as well in fashion was just like, oh my God. And then to actually come and watch your show, I was like, this was one of the most well-deserved people and sense of recognition that you got.
Thank you so much.
And for the shows. It was just like amazing to see that.
Thank you. And that all happened relatively fast from May till now. It seems like it was just a blink, and I don't know where the time went. I had created a whole bunch of different pieces in between that period of time, and the show ended up coming together. And when we met back at the Marty's, or I don't know if we actually met that night, but when
I think we Instagrammed each other.
Right.
And we tried to, and we had started connecting with each other, but I don't think we had the opportunity to actually meet each other properly.
Right.
At the Marty.
Well, even at that point, I still wasn't on board with doing Fashion Week at that moment. I had another obligation to a different Fashion Week that I was about to show at, and that kind of got turned down, and I was just figuring out what my next steps were. About to take a trip to the UK to actually see the Spice Girls
of course.
At the end of that month. But yeah, it's amazing how everything kind of just turned around, and here we are.
So talk to us a little bit about the Marty's, because obviously we know from Rashi's perspective, we have some videos up and some coverage when she won her award. But what was that like for you? How did that come about, and what did it mean to you?
I was actually reached out to by the Mississauga Arts Council. I had participated back in 2015 with the Mississauga Summer Company program, also known as MBEC. And that's kind of how I got my in with the city of Mississauga. I'm Mississauga, born and raised. But I never was really involved in the city of Mississauga. It was more because I went to Ryerson. I was more involved in Toronto and Toronto fashion and that community. But it was the Mississauga Arts Council who reached out to me, and I don't know how it came about, but someone had nominated me, which is so sweet and amazing to hear and get that feedback too. But yeah, that was my first time at the Marty's. Such an amazing event. I hope, and I'm so excited to go next year.
So for those that are listening and are not familiar with what the Marty's are, it's an awards provided by the Mississauga Arts Council, and it recognizes people in the different arts and various different segments of the arts world. So both Rashi and Adrian were both nominated, and
we both won.
They both won.
Congratulations.
Well, same to you, and here we are.
Thank you.
Talking about fashion and stuff.
No, we're gonna take over the Marty's next year, though.
Oh, hell yeah.
So obviously this year you had a Spice Girls themed line.
Right.
Has that always been the case? Has it always been sort of that sort of funky meet streetwear cool look, or what's been your inspirations before this line?
I would say that my inspiration usually stays relatively the same. Not necessarily the Spice Girls. I mean, they were the first girl group, pop, band that kind of introduced me to what fashion was, even though that they're not really fashion icons, to be honest with you.
Well, in a way, they kind of are.
They are for their time. It's
Right.
I
For their
wouldn't
time.
look at them and say, "Wow, these girls were fashion," but they were obtainable and relevant, and like I said, everyone could relate to one of the girls, so you could at least dress like one of them if you could find something in your closet.
And I think that's why they, again, at that time they were considered fashion, because yes, they put a label, like you had sporty, you had posh, you had scary, and like and all of that stuff, but at the same time they showed that how all these different styles rock at that moment, because everybody wanted to be there.
Yeah.
Like I was Spice Girls crazy. Like I had posters, and I was like shirts, and I went to their concerts. Like I was.
You better have gone to their
Of
concert.
course. I actually wore red jeans to one of them. I was like, I have to like dress up like them as much as possible. Like it was just like
I
crazy.
love that.
You know, but that's the thing. Like they made you feel that you could do it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
do any part.
They were
or get
relatable.
involved.
Yeah.
They were relatable for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
And they hit different segments, like the sporty one, like obviously their names, they speak to it, but
Yeah.
they hit the different segments, and so everybody had someone to, well, I feel like I could be that person out of
Who
the
was
group.
your favorite Spice Girl?
Well, mine comes from a different angle altogether.
Yeah.
Let's just say she's taken.
Oh dear God.
So
Moving on.
so when you spun that, and then you introduced also, because your line started out with men.
Right.
So
In that
Space
show.
Boys.
So yeah, so explain that. So like, how did you like? What was your thought process in making sure that everyone was included?
Well, just to make sure everyone was included, I didn't even call it the Spice Boys. I wanted to call them the Spice Crew, just because there were certain models that were they didn't conform to one gender.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wanted to really stay open-minded and embrace that, and also share that with everyone who was watching the show that night. But yeah, I really wanted to open it up with the Spice Crew, kind of throw people off a bit if they didn't already know what the theme of the show was going to be, and to see these 5 different models come out, one wearing a tracksuit, one wearing like a British flag leather jacket, and then to see like a Baby Spice or like almost like a Starboy leather jacket, just super random, 5 different random looks, and then have them all come together in the signature like Spice Girl pose at the end, and then kind of really kick off the show with the music. And I wanted everything to really emphasize what was about to happen for everyone. So even before I got into fashion, I was either debating to go into theater production or fashion design. So I really wanted to incorporate both, I guess, career avenues. Even though I didn't pursue one of the careers, it's still something that I'm super interested in. I love attending concerts, and the theatrics of everything. That's really like what my style is.
Right.
So I just wanted to really include all of that into my show, and I'm like, if this is gonna be my first show, like, people have to know who I am and what I stand
think they
for.
did.
And just because this show was Spice Girl themed doesn't mean all of them are gonna be Spice Girl themed. Like, my inspiration, to go back to your original question,
Absolutely, yeah.
comes from pop music, film, music videos. It's just listening to a song, closing my eyes, and being able to picture what would this person, usually a female celebrity, what would she be wearing during this performance, whether it be live or in a music video, or how would I translate this look from music video into a live performance wear outfit. And then that's what I find really exciting, and how I could morph that outfit into a different outfit for a different song, and clothing reveals and all of that fun stuff that really make a performance like a live art piece.
So I like that. So your thing is to take a performance or someone in the performing arts and build around them for your theme.
Right, yeah.
So can we ask who others you might have in mind to work off of?
I don't think you'll get any more themed, like, celebrity collections. There might be, aspects of them in a collection. But there are surprises. I already have my next kind of theme in my head and visualizing what's to come. I think with all designers, that's once they've moved on from, I guess, birthing their creation, their collection, they are already on to the next.
Absolutely, yeah.
So in that sense, yes, you did the Spice Girls theme, and what I liked was a lot of, like, we could still pick up on trends that are for spring 2020.
Yeah, there was a few.
Right?
I wouldn't say it was a spring 2020 collection,
But there were pieces
but yes.
or like hints of trends that
Yeah.
we know from like other shows and like other trend casting that's what's gonna be there on sale next season. So, and I also noticed again, you did Spice Girls. We're talking 90s. A lot of the designers have been going back and pulling that into the modern day world.
Right.
And I don't know. I just actually thought, and that hit me. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it's the Spice Girls. Yeah, it's very modern. But again, he went back and he picked something that he aspired to. It's almost like it's your personal journey, like your personal inspiration that you brought out. And a lot of designers did that this season everywhere.
Well, and that's so good to hear because I
yeah.
feel like a lot of or the best collections. Not that I would say my collection is the best, but I guess the most authentic and most relatable collections are ones that are personal to the designer. And whether you've both experienced what I've experienced through the music of the Spice Girls, I'm pretty sure, and I'd hope that you can understand who I am as a person, and obviously how that inspiration has formed me and shaped me, and and how I kind of conceptualize those things and have made them my own.
Yeah, I think that was very clear. Like, I think your personality really did shine through. And some people do miss that. And that's a very valid point. Some people or designers do miss that. It's like we're just trying to create what people want to see versus trying to create something that's unique and different that derives from you as a person.
Right? Yeah.
So now going forward, I know we talked about some of the inspirations. You're talking about, potentially maybe doing TFW again or Toronto Fashion Week for those that are listening. What other things are you working on through your designs, maybe even outside of the designer world, that you feel you want to share, things that you're in the process of working on with?
There's so many surprises. And
whatever you're open to sharing.
I will share as much as I possibly can. I recently got into the Suzanne Rogers Fashion Institute, which is put on through Ryerson. Ryerson and Suzanne Rogers have teamed up together, and Suzanne Rogers sponsors at least 3 to 4 different designers each year that are accepted into the program or the fellowship after extensive auditioning and interviews. And there's a certain amount of us that are selected, and we get to go forth and kind of have mentorship, and we are open to, I guess, more exposure and different exposure that we would get. It's different from what we would get if we were trying to get exposure on our own. There's just more opportunities. Right. There's better connections.
The connections and network are probably some of the main features there.
Yeah, and that gets harder as it goes. Like as you go on, if you're an independent designer, it's easy to network if you're going to different events, but it's also about making those quality networking moments with the right people that can really elevate your brand.
We love the word elevate.
Perfect. I'm gonna incorporate that more.
Well played. You get bonus points for that one.
Oh, amazing. But yeah, it's just one more thing that I can add to my story and how I'm going to get from point A to point B. And everyone's story and journey in life is so different, depending what you're doing, if you're starting your own company or just, do whatever. Work is work.
Work is work, yeah.
But this is just one more thing that I thought would be amazing as part of my story, and I ended up getting in, and already the experiences have been super exciting. I have an editorial with Fashion Magazine that will be coming out in mid-November, I believe, or beginning of November. It's a partnership with Maybelline and Fashion Magazine. We had to do a creative design competition, the 3 new fellows, and the 3 of us have such very different design styles. So it's really interesting just to see the other fellows work, and also to be able to support the other fellows or the other members that have been accepted into the fellowship at the same time as me.
So what's the challenge? What do you have to design?
So we were given this red lipstick shade that we had to
from Maybelline.
Yeah, from Maybelline, and this red lipstick is supposed to be, I guess I'm trying to think of the right word to use, but it's supposed to work perfectly with about 150 different skin tones. which is
Wow.
pretty exciting. And again, something that I like to, partner with, just because I am all about inclusivity with as many people as possible. So, yeah, I thought it was a great opportunity. Another super fun challenge. I love doing different design competitions.
Right.
It tests my design ability and gets me thinking outside of the box, which is really exciting and fun. But we had to create 5 different separate pieces, the sensational separate. So there's the knit, the coat, the pant, the skirt, and the top. So I won't disclose too much information about that, but it's a really fun shoot, and we got to style the pieces very differently. And if you've seen my past collection, the Spice Girl collection, then you kind of already know what's to come with this shoot. A lot of
exciting.
fur and prints.
So when is that expected to come out, and where do people find it?
I believe it's going to be coming out in mid-November, if not beginning of November. It's one of the longest issues that'll be out, so I think it's from November, December, January, I believe.
Right, it's like their year-end
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, it's a 3-month issue. But wherever you can find magazines, I guess I've seen them at grocery stores,
Everywhere.
the shoppers,
Perfect.
everywhere.
Everywhere.
So you got,
On
for those
stands.
listening, you got to look out for that.
Yeah.
And make sure you check out and support our friend.
Yes. I'll definitely share it with you guys.
And is there a voting component to it as well?
Nope, no voting component.
Okay.
I'm in.
Okay, because we want to make sure everyone votes for you, obviously.
So now speaking about different challenges, window wars.
Yes.
Yes,
That was super fun.
Yeah. So tell us more about that, because I know that we were walking and we had gotten the flyers at your
Yeah.
show about it. We were walking and then we like
bumped into
stood
each
there.
other.
And we bumped into each other, and then we like stood there like, oh, windows. Let's see windows.
See, that was a fun opportunity because I didn't have to really do any work. I showed up the day before my fashion show.
So you just have to stand there and look good. That was your role.
Basically,
I like
just explain who I am as a person and as a designer, and that's pretty fun, right? I'm doing it now, and I'm
Absolutely.
having a good time talking about me.
We're having a good time hearing about you, so this works.
Thank you. But basically, I just had to pitch my brand and my garments that I had brought with me to 2 different window decorators. I think both women they work in the film industry. They work
Right.
in props and all of that, which is super fun. Again, something else that I would love to get into if I wasn't in the fashion industry already. But yeah, I just had to pitch myself, and the 2 lovely ladies got to choose which designer they wanted to work with. And I think there was 4 different designers that showed at Toronto Fashion Week, and the 4 of us were selected to kind of pitch who we are. And both designers ended up going with me as their, I guess, official window wardrobe designer. So both windows in Yorkville Village are decorated with my garments. So it feels like I have like a little store in Yorkville already. It's right beside the Chanel. If you
We
you
are
want to
aware
go
of
find
that.
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yes.
I was the first person. I was like, "Oh, Chanel's there." And he's like, "No, we're walking this way, Rashi."
Yeah.
We're
No,
walking
right
this way.
beside Chanel though.
Yeah.
See,
And then
Hopefully
we see
that'll
Adrian's
happen.
stuff, which is just
Arnier
phenomenal.
right beside Chanel.
That's it.
Coming soon.
I like that.
Chanel the Arnier line.
Yeah, we could do a collab.
We could
Yeah,
do a
why
collab,
not?
100%.
I'm ready.
You have something unique to offer.
Chanel could always use a little more sequin.
I am with you on that so much. The hat speaks for itself too.
Yeah.
You definitely have Rashi on that. She's a sequence.
Oh, perfect.
If you
Fiend.
need a stylist for that and to help you with the photo shoots, I'm right there with you.
There we go. We just
Done.
need to go to Paris now. Get this
Oh.
collab on the road.
Let's just go. Let's just do it. I'm like ready. He's like staring at me.
Yeah.
Our next
He's gonna
podcast.
kill me.
The next podcast is going to be in Paris.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, oh my god, you know how much fun that would be?
Well, when we get to one of the fashion shows out there, I'm sure we can shoot something out there too.
Yeah, of course.
I'd be more than happy.
We have to
join
plan that out. So how long have you actually been designing?
I got into Ryerson in 2013, and that's literally 2013, 2012. One of those years was the year that I basically learned how to sew so that I could get into Ryerson. So,
So you learned that independently?
no, actually, one of my teachers from high school, Tina Matsei, I'll give you a little shout out.
Aw.
She was the fashion teacher at St. Aloysius Gonzaga in Mississauga. And she took me after hours. I had shown her some of my sketches and wasn't really expecting much out of it. I just explained like I'd be applying to different fashion schools, and I guess she saw something in me, and she took me under her wing and showed me how to sew after school hours, which is just amazing. And she was at my fashion show too, so for her to see,
That's an incredible story that
all
she
of
got to
this
see it full circle. Yeah.
But there's so many people that are part of my story, so I can't say that I did this all on my own. Like, there's so many people that have contributed to my growth and where I am today. So I'm so lucky to have had Miss Mitze, my fashion teacher, teach me how to sew. And basically, since 2013, I've been designing. I wouldn't say 2013 was my best year at designing. Still a bit rocky. But throughout Ryerson, I was pushed to the limit, and I was able to find who I am as a designer. And I would say around 2015, 2016 was when I really felt confident in my design style. And then 2017 was when I first created my, a 5-look collection for my thesis project, my graduating thesis project at Ryerson.
So just real quick. So for those that are listening and don't know, Ryerson is a university. It's a university in Toronto that has a very strong arts program and a very strong, specifically a fashion program.
Correct. It's one of the best fashion programs in Canada.
Yeah. Sorry, just want to make that clear because there's people listening globally.
I know,
And we want to make sure that they...
Everywhere, yeah.
That's all right. That's what we're here.
Yes, well, that's what he's here because I also get absent-minded and get into the entire conversation, and he jumps in.
Yeah, no, jump in.
No, and yeah, that's
me.
it's a conversation. So what I wanted to ask was, since part of what we do in our show is talk about fashion, we also talk about lifestyle. So you're going through an amazing growth story, and you talked about one of your sort of earlier mentors or people that were influential in helping you to build. Yeah. So talk to us about what that means to you, the mentors and people that influenced you and helped you to get to where you are, and what that means to your growth.
Well, there's so many mentors, and
or the importance of that role. We don't need specifics in terms of people, but just how that sort of elevated you through your current career so far. Right.
Well, I think it's so important for young people in general to have at least one or two mentors. I mean, again, everyone can contribute different things to your growth story. Right. So I've been fortunate enough to have so many different mentors. But I hope one day I could mentor someone. That would be phenomenal and a great feeling. And I'm sure it must feel great for like a prof or a teacher to, relay what they've learned in their lives to someone who's up and coming or really trying hard to get into the industry, and then to be able to see them succeed. I'm sure it must be a super exciting feeling. Let me know if I'm veering off from your
right.
question.
No,
we're gonna take a quick pause.
Yes.
For a quick message, and we're going to come back to that thought.
Amazing.
Hey guys, we're taking a quick break just to remind you where you can find our podcast online.
You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Tunes.
Apple Music, but you call it Apple Tunes.
Whatever.
Right. You can also find us on TuneIn, on Google Play, and of course Instagram when we do it the first Tuesday of every month.
And Facebook, here and there.
Here and there.
Here and there.
So thanks for tuning in, and now back to our podcast.
So speaking of mentors, and you said that you got, I will say that you were one of the fortunate people growing up. You were able to like have these mentors and have these people in your life who contributed to your growth and success, and they did that with like love and they cared for it. And I'm sure them seeing you today makes them feel so proud of you, because not everybody gets that, right? Like, you also hear stories of so many people in what they want to do. They are like, nobody guided us, nobody told us. In fact, people would help us to a certain level and then push us down after because they didn't want us to succeed. And you hear those, which is very, very unfortunate, because I feel like everybody has their own set of talents that no one can like take that whole thing away from you. But there are people who are like, oh, she or he is at this level, let's just make them stop there because we don't want them to go further than us, despite it's just sad that still happens today.
There's a lot of jealousy and competition within the arts.
Yes.
Unfortunately. But there are the few that are successful and end up pushing through, and that's what gives me kind of like the strength and excitement to keep going forward.
So have you personally, you don't again have to name names or but have you personally dealt with those situations where there have been people who've been jealous and have been very openly catty and try to like hold you back from what you're like trying to do, or you've so far been lucky enough to just get the unicorns and rainbows aspect
Oh,
to
it's
it.
never just the unicorns. And
That was a direct
For the shirt.
for the shirt.
for the shirt.
Absolutely. So again, yeah, Adrian's wearing an amazing unicorn shirt with
And
a
I
rainbow
love unicorns. So.
and rainbows.
And rainbows.
Yeah.
And sequences.
Yeah. So
Channeling
Rashi's in
baby
heaven right
spice.
now. Sorry.
Channeling the inner baby spice.
That's it.
Yes. But no, it's not always rainbows and unicorns and lollipops. Yeah, there have been moments where people maybe aren't like overtly obvious about them being jealous or catty, and I kind of would love to not see that side of people, and I kind of look past that. But I have gotten comments from people, and it's basically just been about my stuff maybe not being retail appropriate, and it's harder because my stuff isn't kind of retail ready. I'm obviously targeting a different target market, which is celebrity performers, like theatrical performers, and so my market has never really been ready to wear. There's pieces in my collection that I feel like are totally appropriate for certain events, like galas or nighttime events,
And it's
or
true though, yeah.
street styled, but it's never been my goal to have my own store at a mall. That's just not who I am as a designer, and I feel like maybe ready to wear clothing is not appealing to me just because there's only so much I can do, and there's only so much that people will wear and feel comfortable wearing in the public. A lot of my stuff is flashy, and I mean, I love it and I hear great things about it, but it's, again, fashion is all about being appropriate for a certain event.
And that is so refreshing to hear that a designer can actually say that I do not want to be ready to wear, when people are still in that, the general public is still in that mindset of fast fashion. But there are people who are now slowly getting tired of it, and they want to move towards something that is custom made, something that makes them stand out, something that's, it's almost like we're trying to bring everyday couture back.
Yeah, and people are really trying to, or at least I feel, express their individuality through their clothes, and which is so hard because you can walk down the street and see 5 people wearing the same shirt.
Yeah.
Because if that's all that's available to you, and it's $5 for that shirt, of course you're gonna grab that shirt.
And that's
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
And that's
It's easy.
that.
It's convenient.
Yeah, and
It's a simple
when
decision.
there's trends, they go so quickly. I don't really like to focus on trend. Again, my pieces are something special. Maybe you only wear it once, but everyone will remember you for that.
Yeah, and like
That
if you
one
can, why
occasion.
not, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
So
I'm not scared of. I don't want to do retail. If you want to wear it every day, go for it. I mean, that would be my dream to see someone wear a sequin catsuit to go to the grocery store.
Hello.
But I'm
I
just
would do
being
that.
realistic with my own design style, and I know that it's not retail.
No,
Well, let's talk about that from a branding and messaging standpoint, because I feel that might be a challenge throughout the industry, because not everybody wants to, like yourself, build outfits or build designs for retail, right? So how challenging is it to get that messaging out, to share your vision about what your designs are about? Because if you're not there just to do what everybody else is doing with retail, you have something in your mind and you want to build a specific vision. How do you get that out? How do people find out that, hey, if you want this sort of style or this sort of look, Arnier is your person?
I don't know. You know what? My answer. Hopefully, it answers your question. I just do what makes me happy, and
Yeah.
I've heard that's the wrong thing to do. Sometimes you're taught that as an artist. It's not really about what makes you happy. It's about what's going to make your target market the happiest. And I know that there's people out there that are like me. I wish I could be a celebrity and sing on stage, and I'm just figuring out, okay, what would I want to wear if I was singing this song?
Right.
Or what would I wear if I wanted to be performing or in a music video, like my ultimate glam moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, going back to my answer before, if I'm doing what makes me genuinely happy, I think people connect with that more so than being force-fed what's the next trend and what you're gonna like and what you're requesting. Like, sometimes people don't know what they want, and you kind of have to show them what they want. and what they really, really want.
That's the play on Spice Girls too.
There we
You
go.
didn't just do that.
No, I'm not subtle about it.
I feel we have to throw in like a Spice Girls song at some
We can
point.
make that happen. We can throw in the background a little.
There
a
you
little bit. I can make that happen.
Love this.
That's pretty easy. We can throw it in. We'll put it there in the middle of the loop right after he says that. We'll throw in that part of the song.
Love it. Love
Yeah,
it.
and then we'll fade it out. While Rashi's saying we should put this in.
Yeah.
See, this is what I mean. Like, I get made so much fun of. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't understand why.
I
It's the
love
reason.
it.
It's the reason why people
Exciting.
listen to our podcast.
No, they do not listen because you made fun of me. They listen because of our guests and our content.
Well, I'm saying when there are no guests and there's actually real interesting conversation when there's guests here, but when it's just us, they're like, well, what are we going to listen to? And that's where we gotta, use those moments to fill in the gaps.
What the hell, man?
See, this is your personal brand. It's working for you.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, see, he's found his branding with his outfits and his designs. Doesn't want to do retail.
Right.
Has a vision, and he's going after it. Which
Yes, one
you gotta
day-
love and appreciate.
Yeah, one day Jennifer Lopez will like wear her stuff
Absolutely.
and go dance and sing. We
I
all know
hope
that.
so.
Yes. Our branding is that Rashi is easy to make fun of. And that
To
works.
make fun of, okay?
And as people get to hear that more and more, they like it, and that's why they're listening.
Okay, so when I work on a show or like on set, I'm like in my zone, I'm focused. Everybody tells me Rashi's so mean during the set and her show. She's so like, "Arr."
You just
I
know
wouldn't
what
say
you
mean.
want.
Exactly. She knows what she wants. She's
Yeah.
and she wants to make sure it happens correctly.
Yeah.
Total appreciation.
Nothing
for
wrong with that.
Great
And
work ethic.
I don't see that as like me being mean. Yes, I may have occasionally yelled at models to, get their act together, but I always tell them beforehand that they will be yelled at, and I tell them after the show, I'm really sorry, and I'm really happy that you guys did a great job. It's just during that period that I get a little crazy.
You know what you want. It's coming from a place of love and just getting everything done perfectly.
And
I
shows are so
totally
hectic.
get it.
And shoots are so hectic, so you have no choice.
Yeah.
But then these guys make fun of me, and that whole Rashi can get shit done thing gets faded out.
Oh, boys.
I know, right?
Well-
Men are children. There you go. Done. That's the title of this podcast.
Like I said earlier, it's a group effort. Rashi does make it a little bit easier to do that.
It wouldn't be the same without
Exactly.
your qualities. So
Exactly. We couldn't do this without
we
her.
appreciate you.
I know you appreciate me. I don't know about him.
We appreciate you being easy to make fun of because it makes our jobs easier.
Okay, we will talk after the podcast.
100% we will. So we're gonna go back to Adrian, seeing that he's just
Hello.
yeah, hello. He's just sitting here listening to us banter on.
I'm still here.
So on the flip side of the mentor and the influencers that helped you to grow, what are some of the main challenges if someone, like you said, younger or new and up and coming is going through? You're still in your growth phase, but you've seen some things that maybe someone that's maybe a few years behind where you are in your life stage is going to go through as well. What kind of recommendations or things would you give them? What kind of challenges have you faced that you feel, if you had something to go back and tell Adrian from 3 years ago, do this differently, what would you do?
Well, everyone experiences things differently, and it's all about people having different tolerance levels and tough skin. It's a tough industry, and you kind of have to have a tough skin. And I'm pretty soft-hearted, and I take things personally.
Which most people do, I would think, even though they don't show it.
Too. But
That's true.
You know what? There's some tough cookies out there, and
Kudos
for
to them.
too.
Kudos to them. Yep.
I honestly, again, stay true to yourself. Do what makes you happy, at least for the first go of it, because maybe you're gonna get a job where you don't have as much freedom, creative freedom. So I would say get it out of your system as early as possible. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try new things when it comes to fashion or whatever job industry you're in that's creative, at least. I know what helped me, and this is some advice I think is pretty good. I was offered a lot of different design competitions while I was at Ryerson University in Toronto, and I took advantage of every single design challenge. I think there was only one in my third or fourth year that I ended up not taking advantage of, but I had a full plate of work, whether that be
Right.
electives and fashion classes. And again, just after hours, I would take on the extra project of doing a different design competition. And it was just another great way for me to network, to show off my work. it was another way for me to test my designability within a certain like guideline perimeter that was presented to me. And a lot of different opportunities and careers have I guess
Emerged.
presented themselves to me. And again, I just would say try not to say no, even if you're busy. I mean, life is gonna get crazy busy, but I haven't really had opportunities to do different design competitions or as many opportunities now that I've graduated 2 years ago. It's a lot harder. So I would say if you're in school, definitely I'd say go to school for fashion design. But yeah, take advantage of all the opportunities offered while you're at school. If not, seek out different internships and really connect and communicate with people in your field and get yourself out there.
Well, I think that's true for almost any industry, right? I mean, not specific to design competitions, but if there's
Right.
opportunities for you to present your skill set, present your body of work, get your word out there of what you're doing and what you're creating, take advantage of that. Because otherwise, if you're creating something and it's just sitting on your shelf, then no one knows that it's there.
Well, and we're living in this world where social media is so important, and everyone feels like they could be an influencer or sell some kind of product on Instagram, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
I've had that dream too.
Absolutely.
But it's about going that one extra step.
Right.
It's also a great way to keep building your content and sharing things. But it's also like I found design competitions were just one more outlet for me to reach a different market of people or different group of people within my industry that maybe wouldn't have been so easy to connect with just through social media.
So I do agree that to a certain extent, always say yes, even to things that you may not.
I knew Rashi was itching to speak about this topic.
What do you mean I was itching?
I saw it in her eye when you were saying it. I'm like, it's coming. Rashi's about
Are
to
we
say
gonna
something.
have a battle?
No, just that I agree with you to a certain extent that
There might be a small debate, maybe not a battle, which is good.
yes, to a certain extent, you should say yes
Right.
to a lot of things, even things that you don't think you could do, because that's where you end up challenging yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's those industries and whatnot. But I will say that after a certain point, you need to start saying no, because it's not that you don't want to
totally.
give back. You start valuing yourself, and then you want those people to value you. If not, you're gonna get the idiots who will be like, well, 3 years ago he or she said yes. 3 years later, I don't feel like compensating them, so I'm just gonna ask them again. And then sometimes we just get obligated to keep saying yes to things, and we need to start cutting that down.
No, I totally agree with you. And I was speaking more so about like the different design competitions. Again, not everything is going to relate to your specific genre of
course.
design. So again, I wouldn't say never, but I wouldn't be likely for me to apply for like a retail design competition to design like a
please
retail
don't.
garment. But what I mean is just try to put yourself in as many different opportunities as possible that work in your favor to elevate you and your brand. I totally agree. After a while, like I say no a whole bunch of times.
I say no now, like
Well, I think you have to Rashi's point,
You have to.
and I think it's to that point where you have to understand the value of your brand.
Yeah.
And at some point, saying yes to everything becomes a devalue for your brand, and actually works against you.
And exactly. There's going to be some things that work with your brand and some things that don't. And why would you collaborate with someone maybe who doesn't align with your brand?
Exactly.
Like it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
it
So
doesn't make
no, I
sense.
totally get it from that point
And
of view.
then on that point, when you start saying no, I think that's when your thick skin actually starts.
Has to kick in.
Yeah, it has.
It has to kick in.
Because
That's when you get criticized. That's when people
Oh my God.
go and badmouth you, and
people start pulling you down the minute you start standing up for yourself in this industry, and they get so vicious about that, and they'll start saying certain comments and things like that. And I think that is, yes, no matter how tough you are, it's gonna always get to you. And I do agree on that, but I also feel that, and this I speak from experience, after a while, and I know this will be beeped out, you really, really, really just don't give a fuck. At some point, you're like, you know what? This person's gonna talk like shit about me no matter what I do.
Yeah.
Like, it's still a no. Like, I don't care. I just don't like fucking care, and I just want to like do my own stuff and just
Now
be
that's
my
two
own,
bleeps.
like,
We
bubble.
got to put in two bleeps.
So yes, I do agree. It's very hard to get a thick skin because especially as an artist, we get so attached to what we're doing. Any
Yeah,
project
you're
that
putting
we do,
your soul into your work.
exactly. It's not just, oh, this is a project and it's gonna do me. No, like your
No.
heart, your soul. It's
Yeah.
it
Plus,
starts
you're-
consuming
so much of your time and effort and energy, and a lot of these things, because they're so personal, like your brands and your designs are so
Yeah.
personal to you, you're automatically emotionally attached to it.
and the minute that gets the minute that you feel that is attacked in any sort of way, even if you logically know that you shouldn't let it bother you,
It's still so
it's
hurtful.
it's
yeah.
oh my god,
Well,
terrible.
and with my
hurtful.
work, my stuff is created by myself from start to finish. Design, pattern drafting, sewing the samples, sewing the final product, going fabric shopping, making my own custom
Really?
fabric.
You make everything from end to end?
Yeah,
That's
I don't
amazing.
source
Oh, wow.
anything out. And it's also because I'm still young and things are very expensive, and I haven't gotten to that level where people are requesting mass orders of one specific garment. Again, a lot of my stuff is custom, but yeah, I've learned it all at Ryerson through the help of all these different mentors that are lucky enough to be a part of, or I'm lucky enough to have been a part of their lives for that one moment and them pass something on to me. But yeah,
But that learning stays with you forever.
yeah, I've just used all of the skills that I've kind of obtained throughout the years, and of course, I love the design process, and I love being able to hold up a garment or put it on a model and be like, I sewed that, and I also sketched the picture for that, and everything in between.
That's
So it's a
incredible.
satisfying feeling. So
That
all the pieces in my collection were sewn by me.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, that actually gives it a whole different level of respect, because it's not, I mean, yes, sketching and designing is hard on its own, but then you're actually implementing and making this piece come to life yourself. And which is amazing because it's your own vision. So you're going to create it almost to a T because of that.
Yeah. And I almost compare fashion design, if you're doing it from start to finish, kind of like architecture, like a building.
But you're right. That's actually a
You
great
are
comparison.
building something for someone's body. And there's a lot of math involved. And before not knowing how to do any of this, I'm like, oh my God, this is very overwhelming. And I have no
Yeah.
idea where to start. And for a lot of people that aren't in the industry, that's probably where they're at.
Yeah.
But again, it's just you learning and
And you
over time,
and you
you
keep
get
going
it.
at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also a big message from, just again, from a business standpoint, right? Like the folks that are in business and really successful, they know their business inside out. You can put them in any part of the floor in their shop, in their whether it's a service business, wherever they are, and they can almost do every function. And that's sort of what you're building here for yourself. Like you can, I mean, you're building the branding and the marketing. You're out there networking and meeting people. You're sketching the designs. You're doing the measurements and understanding how to fit it on a body. And then you're sewing it and you're putting it all together. Like you can, if this ever, once you build it and it gets big enough where you have all these different people doing these things for you, you could still step in and say someone's not available and everyone needs an extra body and there's all these things to produce.
Of course.
And that's what makes,
I mean, I'm
that's
gonna
what
relax
makes,
a little bit, but
but that's what makes you as a business owner in this world so unique, because not every designer has that.
right. And I think I'd like to think that a lot of young people that are kind of getting into the industry, I feel like they'd want to know all those different steps, whether you're gonna really work at the sewing or pattern drafting like full time. It's good to know the process, even if you're in the retail world,
Yeah.
to know where that garment came from and how it
But
was made.
knowing the process and diving in and doing it are two different things.
And
Yeah.
and that's the thing, right? Like people don't want to take that time
Yeah.
to go through.
They
the
don't care.
process
People don't
because-
care.
because again, we're in that world of instant gratification.
right.
It's like, oh my god, I did this, and then it's just like, dude, what?
Well,
did
and
you
people just
do?
want it fast.
And
They don't care,
And
some
they just want those likes, and they just want that immediate recognition,
Yeah.
which is not always the case, right? You have to start thinking long term. You have to start thinking, what's my step today gonna do for me even 1 year from now, even 2 years from now, not 1 week from now.
Yeah.
Literally 1 year from now or 2 years from now. And a lot of young people still don't think like that. And that's where we're at, really.
That really speaks a lot to your character, and it speaks a lot to your work ethic. The fact
It
that
does.
you have that piece of the business because still at the end of the day, it's a business for you.
Yeah.
That piece of the business down, because you can literally jump in and you don't need to depend on anybody else to make this happen for you, which is what's so important.
Yeah. I know, it's nice to sit back sometimes, and because I don't ever think
about
of
these
that. But to sit down after working on this collection that I've like poured my soul into, yeah, it's pretty exciting to think like, wow, I was able to do all that, or I know how to do all of that.
Exactly, and see, that is what you start appreciating, and that's what you have to celebrate.
Yeah.
Right? Not it's like, I find that we either do not celebrate our like successes and we just like push ourselves and just go, or we celebrate things that aren't really milestones, that aren't really defining who we are, because we feel we need to be positive all the time and we need to feel entitled and special all the time. And unfortunately we don't, because we are going to fail, but if you don't fail, you don't know how to succeed. And you don't know how to appreciate that. So, I mean, that's the way I look at them.
Well, you know what? I say celebrate every little moment. Every little...
That's Rashi's motto. No, that's your motto. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I do that for like your stuff or like other people's stuff. But how many times have you seen me actually be like, oh yeah, that was great. I'm like celebrating it.
Oh, you gotta
I mean,
do
like,
it.
we have conversations about them, and there's a congratulatory conversation. But even those, they make a difference, because it's recognition in that moment. Okay, this happened. It may be something small, but let's take a minute to appreciate it, and then move on.
And then we move on.
Right?
I mean, we have planned to celebrate like
a million different things.
It's not happened, but we have planned to celebrate it at some point.
Celebrate. I mean, I'm lucky to have like my dad and my sister who are really close with me, and whenever there's any little piece of good news or I've accomplished something, right away we'll go out, even if it's just for a Starbucks or go
just
for
something.
a drink somewhere, go for dinner.
You should.
It's just it's so important to celebrate that, because there's a lot of people that will not get those little moments.
That's also
Absolutely.
And I mean, every little step counts in your
13-layer cake. That's all I'm gonna say now.
Oh,
That's all I'm gonna say.
I'll be there for that
You're
celebration.
more than welcome to
Do
join
it.
us for that. We'll have to make that. We'll have to make
One
it.
layer for each of us.
Absolutely. Well, we can
layers
get two
for each of us.
13-layer cakes. We can do 26.
He's the fatty between us with the sweet.
I love
tooth,
dessert. I
so-
eat dessert
me
every day.
too.
Every
We're
single
going.
day.
This is a different podcast conversation, because I love dessert too.
Yeah. Dessert. I would do dessert over a main meal any day of the week.
Yeah. Me too.
Okay, so mine is, I mean, I do love desserts, but not as much as he does. For me, it's like the cheese and the chips and the spicy stuff,
Oh.
So you're savory. You
I
like the
do
savory.
like the chips too.
like Pringles.
It's everything that's bad for you.
Yeah,
everything
oh
that's
my
bad.
God.
Well, that's all of
and
us.
fried, and something deep fried.
Yes.
Especially like on a rainy day.
'Tis the season.
Oh my God.
Yeah, definitely a dessert person. But sweet and savory together is an amazing combination as well, if done right. You don't have to agree. I don't care if you do or not.
No, it's true. It's true. It's actually true.
I'm gonna go with it.
Actually true.
So anything you want to say it before we close? Any sort of message that you feel, either to anybody in the industry? You've given a couple of pointers. Anybody looking to start up their own brand, no matter what the industry is. Anything you want to say about your designs coming up that you want to share that you maybe haven't yet? We're gonna leave the floor to you and leave it open for a second.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to thank both of you for having me on the podcast. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to thank you guys or not, so I'm going to just swoop in and do it right now. This has been such an exciting experience. Never done a podcast before. So thank you again, genuinely, for having me on your podcast. For those of you who are listening, thank you for listening. Again, I hope any tidbit of advice that I've given throughout this podcast really helps you.
Now I'm thinking about Timbits.
Ooh.
The jelly ones. The jelly
That's after
ones.
this.
Yeah. Might have to make a
Celebrate
stop.
your successes with Timbit.
That's it.
But yeah, there's going to be highs and lows in everyone's career. There's no ABC plan that's destined for everyone to follow. I mean, I've been all over the place, and it's literally just what works for you, your design style. Everyone is different, so there's different opportunities that are going to present themselves to you. You might not be successful at certain tasks or opportunities, and don't think that that's what defines you. What defines you is how you pick yourself up and move on from that. And really, if it didn't work out, it really wasn't meant to be, and there's something
That's the
greater
biggest
for
thing
you.
to remember.
And I know that sounds so cheesy, but
It's so
there's
true.
so many different stories I can tell you where that has happened to me, and you don't realize it till afterwards, and you're like, well, thank God that didn't work out for me.
Absolutely.
But my dad always told me, and it's funny because my dad, he's always nervous, but he said, do things in life that scare you.
That's very, very true.
And
actually.
there's been so many different scary moments, and I've, again, said yes. And it's just amazing to see, like, what hard work and determination does and where it'll take you. And there's just so many things to be excited about. And again, don't compromise who you are, and don't feel like you have to conform to a certain box. There's going to be people that will love your work. There's people like you out there that will appreciate what you're doing. And again, you don't have to be successful right away. These things take
And you
time.
got to put it up for them to find you.
Exactly.
Just
Put yourself out
just
there.
do your thing. Like,
And Adrian, where do people find you online? Instagram, website?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Arnieri Official. That's ARNIERI Official. And
We'll
then
have it in the description on our
Perfect.
YouTube page as well.
And then you can also see some of my work on my website, which is www.arnieriofficial.com.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate that. I thought it was an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
We talked about the industry. We talked about business. We talked about personal stories.
Dude.
We talked about food. That was awesome. Thanks for taking that time.
No, thank you both.
it was more than our pleasure. And you know, guys, just don't give a fuck and do you, and look
goodness, 3
look
bleeps.
where you'll end up. You know, there you go.
You have to edit the bleeps.
This guy.
Yeah, well, that's your calling, not mine.
So thank you again for tuning in to Elevated Grapes. If you want to find us online, our Instagram handle's at Elevated Grapes. It's YouTube. You can search Elevated Grapes. Facebook also.
Basically, when you
Facebook.com/elevated
Google
grapes.
us, we do pop up. Just Google elevated grapes, and you just see a whole bunch of
Yeah,
stuff.
you know, we want to make sure that they have the individual.
I know, but I'm
locations
just
too.
making it easy
Absolutely.
for like some of them.
That's it. I'm your host, Sethi,
and Stylist Trashy Bin.
and we're signing out. See you next week.
Hey guys, thank you for watching that podcast or that video. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of us and see some of our behind the scenes stuff, subscribe below.
Yes, hit that little red, button thingy that's over there and hit subscribe and keep following us for a lot more cool, fun stuff.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you soon.